A very good evening. You're watching Primetime News on TV1, bringing you the news. I'm Jodabdin.
And I'm Omitra Bekun. Let's start off with a look at your headlines for tonight.
The headlines on Newsfirst.
Sri Lanka's para-athlete Palitha Bandara clinches Commonwealth Games silver. Rumesh Tharanga storms into javelin throw final. Court says charges cannot be maintained against Harakata under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. Charges can only be filed under the Penal Code. Sugishwara Bandara remanded again. Charitabe Singh released after meeting bail conditions. Date fixed for money laundering case against Namal. Government has public mandate to clear court backlog, says Minister Nalinda Jayatissa. Over $320,000 monthly in floating armory revenue went to Avantgarde. A revelation at Cope.
Onto those stories in detail leading in sports tonight. Today turned out to be a memorable and triumphant day for Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka secured its first medal of the 2026 Commonwealth Games.
The nation also strengthened its hopes of adding more medals to its tally with another strong medal prospect emerging today. Steven Machado is ready with the details.
Thank you, Mitra, and thank you, Gerard. Now, taking a look at the sports arena for today, para-athlete Palitha Bandara delivered Sri Lanka's first medal at the 2026 Commonwealth Games. Now, the achievement came in the discus throw event. Meanwhile, javelin thrower Rumesh Tharanga boosted Sri Lanka's prospects of securing another medal after producing an impressive performance today. Here are the details.
The 2026 Commonwealth Games are currently being held in Glasgow in Scotland. The final of the men's para-discus throw F42-44 stroke F61-64 event featuring Sri Lanka's Palitha Bandara was held in the early hours of today Sri Lankan time. Bandara recorded a throw of 46.84 meters during the competition. The mark also stands as his personal best performance in the event. Based on his performance, Bandara clinched the silver medal for Sri Lanka. It is the second consecutive occasion on which he has secured a silver medal at the Commonwealth Games.
පැවති සීතලිය කාලගුණික තත්ත්වය යටතේ මට මගේ හොඳ පුද්ගලික දක්ෂතාවයත් සමග රිදි බදක්කමකින් සැහැීමකටපත් වෙන්න වුණා. මේක මගේ තනි ජයග්‍රහණයක් නෙවෙයි. ශ්‍රී ලාංකිකයන් විදියට අපි සියලුම දෙනා ලබාගත් ජයග්‍රහණයක්. මාව මේ තැනට ගේන්න ගොඩක් අය මහන්සි වුණා. ඒ අතරින් ශ්‍රී ලංකා යුද්ධ හමුදා විශේෂයි. ඒ වගේම ජාතික පැරලිම්පික් කමිටුව, ඒ වගේම ශ්‍රී ලංකා ඔලිම්පික් කමිටුව, ඒ වගේම මගේ පුහුණුකරු සියලු දෙනාට ගොඩක් ස්තුතියි මේ ජයග්‍රහණය ඔය සියලුම දෙනාගේ.
Sri Lanka's Rumesh Tharanga today qualified for the final of the men's javelin throw event at the Commonwealth Games. He secured his place in the final after producing a throw of 82.84 meters in today's qualification round. Rumesh is currently ranked second in the world in the men's javelin throw event. The final, featuring the Sri Lankan star, is scheduled to begin at 12:45 a.m. on the 1st of August.
Yeah.
President Andukumara Dissanayake says that the youth of the country have taken up the challenge of preserving our nation's historical heritage.
He made these remarks while attending the final Grand Pirahara of the historic Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Devalaya of the 2026 Asela Festival. Visiting the historic Kirivehera Rajamahaviharaya, the President first called upon Venerable Kobavaka Daminda Thera, the Chief Sanganayaka of the Ruhunuma Gampattua and the Chief Incumbent of the historic Kirivehera Rajamahaviharaya to receive blessings. Participating in the religious observances held in front of the Kirivehera, the President placed the sacred relic casket upon the Tasker Vasana. The illumination of the Kirivehera premises with electricity was also inaugurated by the President. Following that, the final Grand Pirahara of the historic Ruhunu Maha Kataragama Devalaya's 2026 Asela Festival paraded the streets last night. A large crowd had gathered to witness the pageant, which came alive with numerous cultural dance performances and Kaveri dances.
රටේ විවිධ කරදර බාධක උවදුරු සතුරු කරදර ආදී මොන කරදර ආවත් මේ ඓතිහාසික පෙරහැර මංගල්‍ය කිසිම වසරකදී නතර නොකර පැවැත්වුණු බව ඉතිහාසයේ පරීක්ෂා කිරීමේදී අපිට හොඳින් අවබෝධ වෙනවා. පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයට බොහොම ගෞරවනීය බවක් අලංකාර බවක් එකතු කර දෙන්නට අපේ රටේ ජනාධිපතිතුමන් අනුර කුමාර දිසානායක මැතිතුමන් විශේෂ කැපකිරීමක් කළා.
මේ පෙරහැර මංගල්‍ය අපේ ඓතිහාසික උරුමයන් අපේ රට ගොඩනැගී තිබෙන සංස්කෘතික පදනම් ආරක්ෂා කරගනිමින් අනාගත පරම්පරාව වෙනුවෙන් එම සංස්කෘතිකයේ උරුමයන් උරුම කර දෙන ඉතාමත් ඓතිහාසික අවස්ථාවක්. මේ පෙරහැර දෙස බලාගෙන හිටපුවම අපිට දැනෙන්නේ කුමක්ද? නව යෞවනයේ තරුණ තරුණියන් දහස් ගණනක් අපේ අතීත මිතුන් මිත්තන්ගේ සංස්කෘතික උරුමයන් පෙරදරි කරගෙන මෙම පෙරහැර මංගල්‍යයේ ගමන් කරන බව අපි දකිනවා. එයින් අපිට පෙන්눔 කරන්නේ කුමක්ද? මේ නව යෞවන තරුණ තරුණයන් මේ ඓතිහාසික උරුමයන් තවත් চিරාත් කාලයක් පවත්වාගෙන යන්න ඒ අභියෝගය වුන් බාරගෙන තිබෙන බවත් ඒ අභියෝගේ සාර්ථකව නිමා කරන්නත් හැකියාව තිබෙන බව තමයි ඔවුන් පෙන්눔 කරලා තිබෙන්නේ.
The President also presented the royal proclamation marking the conclusion of the pageant to Venerable Kubavaka Daminda Thera, the chief incumbent of the Kirivehera Raja Mahaviharya. The Perahara was officially concluded following the water cutting ceremony at the Manik Ganga this morning. The final grand procession of the 769th Asela Perahara of the historic Devinuvara Upulvan Sri Vishnu Devalaya paraded the streets on Wednesday night. Featuring traditional upcountry and low-country dance performances alongside Kaveri dances, the renowned cultural festival attracted both local and international spectators. A total of 64 dance troupes and 12 elephants and tuskers took part in this year's Perahara. Special police security was deployed for the duration of the procession. The development plot regarding the escape plot case against a notorious underworld figure Harak Kata was reported from court today. Here's a look. The Colombo High Court has ruled that charges filed under the Prevention of Terrorism Act against Nadun Chintaka Vikramaratna, alias Harak Kata, and 4 other defendants cannot be maintained before court. The ruling was delivered in relation to indictments filed under the PTA, alleging that the accused had conspired to escape while Harak Kata was being detained in the custody of the Criminal Investigation Department under detention orders. However, the court held that when considering the nature of the offences allegedly committed by the accused, there was no legal impediment to proceeding with the charges that had been filed against them under the Penal Code. The order was issued by Colombo High Court Judge Buddhikasi Ragal after upholding preliminary objections raised by President's Counsel U.R. De Silva, Attorney-at-Law Jalya Samrasinghe and other lawyers appearing on behalf of the defendants.
Former Samik Jana Balawegaya Horan organizer Charit Abesinghe, who was remanded in custody again recently after failing to fulfill bail conditions, was released from prison today after successfully meeting the court-imposed requirements.
Former Minister Vijayadas Rajapaksa's son, Rakita Rajapaksa, former SJB Horana organizer Charitabe Singha, and former Airport and Aviation Services Director Varusha Hannadige Arun Sri Chaturanga had been arrested and remanded in custody as suspects. The arrests were made in connection with allegations that they had solicited a bribe of 500 million rupees from the wife of Nadun Chintaka Vikramaratna, alias Harak Kata, who was being held under detention orders by the Criminal Investigation Department. The money was allegedly sought in exchange for assisting investigations aimed at preventing Harak Kata's assassination and facilitating the removal of his detention orders and transfer from the Busa High Security Prison to another prison facility. It is alleged that the demand was later reduced to 300 million rupees and that an advance payment of 120 million rupees had been obtained. When the case was taken up on the 28th July, Colombo Chief Magistrate Asanga S. Bodragama ordered that each of the 3 suspects be released on a cash bail of 100,000 rupees and 2 surety bails of 1 million rupees each. The magistrate further directed that the sureties submit sworn affidavits to court confirming that they possess sufficient income or property to cover the value of the bail bonds. Rakita Rajapaksha and Arun Sri Chaturanga, having fulfilled the bail conditions, subsequently left the court premises. However, Charita Abesinghe was remanded again after failing to meet the condition relating to the sureties. After completing the required bail conditions today, Charita Abesinghe was granted bail and released from prison.
The 4th Magistrates Court ordered that Sugishwara Bandara, the former private secretary to ex-President Gotabaya Rajapaksa, be further remanded until the 12th of August over allegations of criminal misappropriation of funds allocated under the Presidential Expenditure Head. The case was taken up today before 4th Magistrate Pasan Amarasena. Bandara was arrested by the Central Crimes Investigation Bureau on the 18th of June over allegations that he had misused state funds by drawing salaries and allowances from allocations under the Presidential Expenditure Head while simultaneously serving as former President Gotabaya Rajapaksa's private secretary and later as Special Projects Director to former President Ranil Wickremesinghe during the period from 14th of July 2022 to 21st of December 2024.
දිව්‍ය ලෝකෙන් ආපු දෙවිවරුන්ට පෙරහැරට ආරක්ෂාවක් දෙන්න බැරි ආණ්ඩුවක්.
The Colombo Magistrates Court ordered that the money laundering case filed against parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa and 3 other accused under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act be recalled on the 29th of October. The case was taken up before Colombo Chief Magistrate Asanga S. Bodaragama. During the previous court hearing, officers of the Criminal Investigation Department informed the court that steps had been taken to seek the Attorney General's advice regarding the future legal action to be pursued against parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa and the other suspects named in the case. When the matter was called today, investigating officers told court that the Attorney General's instruction had not yet been received and requested a further date for the case. After considering the submissions, Chief Magistrate Bodaragama fixed 29th of October as the next date for the case and directed that the matter be recalled pending the receipt of the Attorney General's advice. The case has been filed against parliamentarian Namal Rajapaksa along with Nithya Senani Samaranayaka, Sujani Bogallagama and Sudarshana Ganegoda, who served as directors of NR Consultancy Private Limited. The prosecution alleges that Rajapaksa, while serving as a member of parliament, committed an offence under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act by investing 15 million rupees allegedly earned through unlawful means in NR Consultancy Private Limited.
Sri Lanka Podujana Peramuna National Organizer and the Member of Parliament Namal Rajapaksa said that making decisions relating to the independence of the judiciary on the basis of individuals could have serious repercussions on the country's judicial system. He made these remarks while responding to questions from journalists regarding the proposed extension of the retirement age of judges. It is the government that has brought forward the discussion on extending the tenure of the current Chief Justice. That may well be the government's expectation. However, we firmly believe that the judicial system of this country must function independently and be free from political interference. Today, it is clear that the government is attempting to exert a significant influence on the independence of the judiciary. It is my belief that decisions should not be made based on individuals. Throughout our history, we have seen decisions being taken to suit particular individuals. During President Mahinda Rajapaksa's tenure, provisions were introduced allowing a president to seek office for a third term. That was done with a particular individual in mind. Later, term limits were changed to 30 to 35 years. Why? Again, it was done with individuals in mind. Then we saw restrictions introduced preventing dual citizens from contesting elections. Why? That too was aimed at particular individuals. Therefore, we must learn lessons from history.
Here are comments made by Attorney-at-Law Chandima Veerakkodi of the Samagi Jana Balawegaya regarding the actions of former leaders who are currently expressing views concerning the independence of the judicial system.
Ranil Wickramasinghe tried to do the exact same thing to Sanjay Rajaratnam. Politicians are like that. Chief Justice Sarath Silva was asked the same thing. A similar proposal was made to him and he declined it. Chief Justice Sri Pavan also received a similar proposal which he declined as well. These are facts well known in the legal field. Why? Because honour and the independence of judges are important.
The Democratic National Alliance has responded to opposition groups that have voiced concerns over proposals to extend the retirement age of judges.
These defeated, politically bankrupt groups, many of whom are facing various allegations, are now attempting to create confusion within the judicial system. They are trying to build a narrative that extending the tenure of judges would undermine the rule of law and the independence of the judiciary. Who are the people that gathered at the opposition leader's office claiming to protect judicial independence? The first person to step out of a vehicle was Ranil Wickramasinghe. What allegations does he face? There are allegations relating to the misuse of public funds. Then we saw Namal Rajapaksa arrive. Indictments have already been filed in court in connection with the Krish transaction. Vimal Veeravansa also arrived. We have seen allegations against him regarding the misuse of State Engineering Corporation funds and the acquisition of houses. On one side was Patale Champika Ranawaka and on the other was Uday Gammanpilla. We also saw Dilip Jayavira attend. Cases have reportedly been filed against him before the Bribery Commission. These are the very people who have come forward claiming to defend judicial independence. Now, when it comes to the Bar Association, we ask whether they have forgotten the time when judges were summoned before parliamentary select committees. At that time, the Bar Association remained silent. We say that when the law is being enforced against individuals facing allegations, the Bar Association should extend its support to that process. The people of this country are not the Bar Association. The public expected swift legal action against those who bankrupted the country, misused public funds and plundered state resources. Therefore, if any party is intervening to protect certain individuals, we believe the Bar Association should be ashamed. The Bar Association should not be raising its voice only on this issue. We all witnessed the allegations involving Vijayadasa Rajapaksa's son. Has the Bar Association issued any statement regarding that matter? If it is genuinely committed to defending the rule of law and judicial integrity, then it should also intervene in matters such as those.
Minister Dr. Nalinda Jayathish emphasises that there is no truth whatsoever to the opposition's argument that increasing the retirement age of judges will have an impact on the independence of the judiciary.
The government has a mandate to reduce the backlog of cases in these courts and provide relief to the people. Therefore, no one needs to be alarmed about this. I think even the judges, especially the judges, have a keen interest in expediting these cases to enhance the independence and credibility of the judiciary. I personally don't understand how increasing the retirement age of judges by 2 years, increasing the number of courts, or filling judicial vacancies could possibly interfere with the independence of the judiciary. Let's assume someone retires at 60. Working independently as a judge until 60 years and 1 month does not somehow mean judicial independence is compromised. It is a false argument. What we are saying is, from your side, extend your cooperation to help reduce the pile of cases stacked up in these courts and provide relief to the public. It was revealed that the Committee on Public Enterprises that Avantgarde had received an estimated monthly income of around $320,000 for several years from revenue that would otherwise have accrued to the government through the provision of floating armory facilities. The revelation came when Ratna Lanka Limited was summoned before a COP subcommittee meeting. It was not us who initiated this arrangement with Avantgarde. Those who started it signed a joint venture agreement, and that joint venture still remains in effect. When weapons carried on ships at sea transit through Sri Lanka, they are unloaded at the port of Galle. Under international regulations, such weapons cannot be brought into the country. Therefore, they are stored in floating armories. A fee is charged for this service, approximately $1,800 for storing 3 weapons. Subsequently, another $1,800 is charged when those 3 weapons are retrieved. This became our primary source of revenue. However, under the joint venture arrangement, 80% of the profits were taken by the private company, while the remaining 20% was divided, with 15% going to the Navy and 5% to us.
ඒක ඉතුරු 20න් 15ක් නාවික හමුදාවට 5ක් අපිට
2025 අවුරුද්දේ මේ ප්‍රොෆිට් එක කීයද ඒක?
සාමාන්‍ය වශයෙන් ගත්තොත් මාසෙකට ඩොලර් ලක්ෂ 4ක ආදායමක් ඒක උපන්නවා. ඒකෙන් 80%ක්ම ගිහිල්ලා තිබුණේ පුද්ගලික සමාගමට.
ටර්න් කාඩ් එකේ තියෙන ඇග්‍රීමන්ට් එක ක්ලෝස් කරන්න තියෙන නීතිමය බාධාවක් තියෙනවද?
නීතිමය බාධාවක් තාම තියෙනවා. මොකද අපි අත්සන් කරලා තියෙන්නේ ඒගොල්ලෝ 2027 දක්වා.
කවුද තීරණය අරන් තියෙන්නේ?
2009 ඉඳන් ආරම්භ කරපේවට එහෙම අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩල අනුමැතියෙන් ලැබිච්ච බවට අපි එහෙම ගන්න නැහැ. ඇත්තටම අමාත්‍ය මණ්ඩලයකින් එකක් නැහැ. අධ්‍යක්ෂ මණ්ඩල අනුමැතියකට වඩා ඒක ආරක්ෂක අමාත්‍යාංශය යටතේ තමයි ඉන්නේ.
ඒතකොට 2006 ඉඳලා මේ වෙනකොට රක්නා ලංකා සමාගම සතුව තිබුණු වෙපන්ස් ප්‍රමාණය කොච්චරද?
වෙපන් 219ක් තමයි අපි දැන්ට ඒ සම්බන්ධ පරිශීලනයක් පවත්වන්නේ.
ඒ කියන්නේ වෙපන් 219 මොකද වෙලා තියෙන්නේ?
ඒ කියන්නේ ඒකේ 219න් වෙපන් 139ක් අපේ විදේශ ආමර වල තැන්පත් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒවා ගෙන්න ගන්න බැරුව තියෙන්නේ. ඔය ඊට අමතරව වෙපන් 13ක් තියෙනවා. ඒක තියෙන තැනක අපිට හොයාගන්න බෑ.
ෆ්ලෝටින් ආමරස් වල තමයි ඒවා දාලා තියෙන්නේ. දැන් ඒගොල්ලෝ අපි කොටවා ඒගොල්ලොත් ඒක සම්බන්ධ වෙලා මේවා සොයනවා.
සෝවිශ ආමරි වල තියෙන වෙපන්ස් ටික නැවත ලංකාවට ගෙන්න ගැනීමේ වගකීම තියෙන්නේ රක්නා ලංකායකටද එහෙම නැත්නම් එවන් ගාඩ් එකටද?
ඒගොල්ලෝ කොහොමද දැන් ඒක බාර ගන්න නැතුව නිදහස් වීමට කරුණු ඉදිරිපත් කරනවා.
ඔමාන් ආමරේ තියෙනවා වෙපන් 7ක් තියෙනවා. ඒතර සවුත් අප්‍රිකාව වල තියෙනවා වෙපන් 47ක්. ටැන්සානියාවේ 10ක් තියෙනවා. රතු මුහුදේ 51ක් තියෙනවා. මුරුසියේ 3ක් තියෙනවා. පෝලන්තයේ 3ක් තියෙනවා. ප්‍රංශයේ 4ක් තියෙනවා.
ඒක ගෙන්නන්න වගකීම ගන්න කෙනෙක් හොයාගන්න බැරුව ඉන්නවා.
දැන් මෙහියුම් කටයුතු එවන් ගාඩ් එක අවසන් කරලා තියෙනවා. එතකොට ඒගොල්ලන්ගේ මුදලක් රක්නා ලංකා ආයතනයට මේ එන්න තියෙනවාද?
ඊට 5ක් ගෙවන්න තියෙන සභාපතිතුමා. අන්නේ මුදල එයා හැමතිස්සෙම මාස 2-3ක් පරක්කු කර ගෙවන්නේ.
ඒ 105 රුපියල්ද USDස්ද?
අපිට OBST වලින් ඩොලර් 23109.38ක් තියෙනවා. AGMS සම්බන්ධ වෙච්ච එකේ ඩොලර් 3,7170.12ක් තියෙනවා. ඊටතරව අපි ෆිෂින් වෙසල් ඔපරේෂන් එකක් කරලා තිනවා. ඒකෙදී දල වශයෙන් රුපියල් මිලියන 3.5ක් විතර අපිට මුදලක් අපිට දෙන්න තියෙනවා. එවන් ගාඩ්.
ඒතර ඩොලර් වලින් ගත්තොත් එහෙම ඩොලර් 3,30,000ක් විතර එවන් ගාඩ් එකෙන් එන්න තියෙන ඩොලර් වලින්.
ඔව් ඩොලර්ස්.
ඊට අමතරව ඔබතුමාගේ රුපියල් වලින්
මිලියන 3.5ක්.
France, Spain and Greece battled major wildfires as soaring temperatures, parched vegetation and powerful winds extended a summer of deadly fires, mass evacuations and mounting disruption across Europe.
France arrested 2 people on suspicion of arson as crews contained a vast fire near Bordeaux. Spain fought a blaze in the eastern province of Castellon, and Greece battled fires on 2 fronts that killed 3 firefighters and forced tourists and residents to flee parts of Crete. Onel Kamaratunga brings us the latest.
Yes, thank you, Joad and Nomitra. Now, emergency crews have faced barely a pause between heat waves and fire fronts this summer across an increasingly tinder dry Europe, the world's fastest warming continent. EU countries are having an above-average season for wildfires, already overtaking 2025's record-breaking year. Today's temperatures showed Europe was the continent's furthest from its historic norm, according to the Reuters Climate Monitor. The average high is forecast to be 25.3 degrees Celsius, which is 3.6 degrees Celsius above what was typical from 1961 to 1990. Here's more details.
In southwestern France, authorities said the fires near Bordeaux had not spread overnight, with the area burnt holding at 42,000 hectares. 2 people were arrested on suspicion of starting fires, the local administration said, without providing further details. The French fires have torn through pine forests and forced about 220,000 residents and holidaymakers to evacuate, although some 60,000 have been allowed to return. Officials said thousands of businesses which briefly suspended operations were gradually reopening. Conditions were expected to ease around Bordeaux today, with the possibility of thunderstorms, greater humidity and temperatures below recent peaks. But an extreme heat warning remained in force in Gironde, the department of which Bordeaux is the main city, and authorities cautioned the fires were not over. Wildfires in France have now burnt more land than in any year since 2006. 2 firefighters died after becoming trapped in a fire which erupted in central Crete on Wednesday while they were driving between fire fronts. Another died in a separate fire in the Peloponnese region. Hundreds of residents and tourists were evacuated from the area by sea and by land around the community of Kriavrisi and surrounding villages as high winds pushed the fire out of control near popular holiday spots. Intense heat from wildfires is known to create its own microclimate, which can occasionally lead to more extreme weather phenomena. Wind is one. Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez said the crisis facing the country was extreme, with at least 10 active wildfires causing concern. Speaking from Mallorca, he added that he had asked European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen by letter to base a new EU wildfire fighting centre for the Western Mediterranean region on the Balearic Island. New wildfires have erupted in the northwestern Spanish provinces of Zamora and Leon amid the fourth heat wave of the summer, while the blaze in eastern Castellon province continues to spread. More than 1,000 people have been evacuated in the area of Zamora's Aribe del Duero Natural Park, while 3 separate fires in the north of Leon forced more than 300 people to leave their homes.
The number of people who have died after a powerful earthquake hit southwestern Japan has risen to 34, authorities in Kumamoto Prefecture said today. Also included in the prefecture's tally were 3 others confirmed dead in Yatsushiro and 1 in the town of Kosa. Rescuers are still working to find survivors after the magnitude 6.8 earthquake hit Kumamoto Prefecture on Kyushu Island on Tuesday, causing widespread damage to houses and power lines.
According to sources close to the matter, the one remaining missing person at the paper plant, where multiple smokestacks were badly damaged, has been found, but the person's condition is unknown. Separately, the UK city government told Kyodo News that it was aware of 2 deaths in the city, but had yet to report the cases to the prefecture. Vietnam news agency reported that one Vietnamese trainee died after being crushed by a crane in a factory in Kosa. At a press conference in Tokyo, Chief Cabinet Secretary Minoru Kihara said discrepancy in casualty figures released by the central government and Kumamoto Prefecture exists at this stage because the state relies on police and fire service data, while the prefecture tallies numbers reported by municipalities. As of this morning, more than 10,000 people were staying in evacuation centers. About 23,000 households were without electricity and some 75,000 households without water, according to the prefecture, raising concerns about residents' well-being. Tuesday's tremor registered the maximum of 7 on the Japanese seismic intensity scale in Yuki and Hikawa at 4:27 p.m. At that level, people cannot remain standing or move without crawling and be thrown through the air, according to the Japan Meteorological Agency.
Russian airstrikes killed at least 8 people in Ukraine, including 1 in Kiev, in attacks extending as far as the western city of Lviv, forcing neighboring Poland to scramble fighter jets to secure its airspace. The attacks come as President Volodymyr Zelensky returns from the United States, where he said President Donald Trump agreed to give Ukraine licenses for Patriot missiles.
Air raid alerts sounded across most regions of Ukraine, with a Reuters witness saying explosions were heard in Kiev. A few non-residential sites caught fire, Mayor Vitaly Klitschko said on the Telegram messaging app. Emergency services said 1 person was killed and 2 more injured in the capital, including 2 children killed in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Regional officials said 1 person was killed in Poltava. In Zelensky's hometown, the central city of Kryvyi Rih, 2 girls aged 5 and 12 were among the 6 killed, with 8 injured in what Alexander Vilkal, the city's defense council head, said was a direct strike by Russian Iskander-M ballistic missile. A dark night, Vilkal said on Telegram, adding that the missile launched from Russia's Voronezh region struck the home of a large family and warned that death toll could increase as emergency workers clear away rubble. Officials said in Lviv, close to Poland, rescue workers were scrambling to clear rubble to reach those trapped after Russian missiles damaged 2 apartment buildings and injured 26. Earlier, Zelensky had warned a massive Russian attack was likely, saying the safety of Ukrainians depended on the willingness of allies to provide anti-missile defenses.
Negombo's biggest beach party return. MMR 26 Together. Organised by Mother Stella College, All Boys Association. August 1st at Jetwing Blue. Headlining Beyond Again, the world's #1 ABBA show. Plus the Warehouse Project, C+, and more till midnight.
What we have is the territorial sea that extends to 12 nautical miles from the baseline, what you said, the coastline. That is correct. And you have what we call the innocent passage regime. So the passage must be innocent, and we have sovereignty in territorial seas, subject to one limitation.
Why we have not been able to increase our share in international trade? Fundamentally, our trade policies have not been consistently implemented.
I think we have to have an understanding, the lessons learned from that, the national interest, why we haven't achieved them. Obviously, we have not achieved all our national potential.
The two essential principles to this scheme are something called most favored nation. That is, if one country gives, one member of the WTO gives a particular tariff to one country, it automatically applies to all the other members.
This weekend and every weekend, TV1 brings you the adrenaline of Aussie Rules football. For the very first time on Sri Lankan free-to-air television, feel the hits, the spectacular marks, and the roar of the crowd. Every weekend, catch AFL action exclusively on TV1 every Sunday at 9:45 p.m. Don't miss a moment, because every mark, every goal, every victory is right here. TV1, the home of AFL, for millions of Sri Lankans. Brought to you in partnership with ABC Australia.
The prevailing southwest monsoon conditions across the island are expected to bring rainy weather to southwestern parts of Sri Lanka over the next few days.
Steven Machado is once again ready with more details about the weather.
Yes, thank you once again, Umitra and Juad. Now, taking a look at the latest weather situation across the country, the Department of Meteorology says that fairly heavy rainfall exceeding 100 millimeters can be accepted at some locations in the western, Sabaragamuwa and northwestern provinces, as well as in the districts of Kandy, Nuwara, Galle and Mathura. Now, dry weather conditions are expected to prevail across the rest of the island. The weather forecast further states that strong winds of around 40 to 50 kilometers per hour may occur at times in the northern, north central, northwestern and central provinces, as well as in the districts of Ratnapura, Monaragala, Hambantota and Trincomalee. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology has advised the fishing and naval communities to refrain from venturing into the sea areas stretching from Kankasantare to Kalpitia via Mannar and from Hambantota to Potuville, as wind speeds in these regions are expected to increase between 60 and 70 kilometers per hour. Meanwhile, the Department of Meteorology has warned that Sri Lanka could experience effects of a strong El Nino event, while urging the public to use water resources prudently. The department has advised residents across the country to conserve water and manage existing resources carefully. Let's take a look.
Meteorological experts have noted that the El Nino phenomenon, which is known to trigger unusual weather patterns worldwide, has already begun developing in the Pacific Ocean region. They cautioned that although the phenomenon remains at a weak level at present, it has the potential to strengthen gradually in the coming months.
In the coming period and beyond, there is a strong possibility that it could develop into a more intense El Nino condition. We do not believe a severe water shortage will occur. However, the most important factor is the prudent use of the water resources currently available. We believe that through proper management, we will be able to cope with the situation. This is because we expect rainfall conditions to improve after October under the influence of the El Nino phenomenon.
Questions have also been raised over whether El Nino could affect water consumption and supply in Sri Lanka.
Even if there is no rainfall for the next 3 months, the water currently stored in the Labugama and Kalatuava reservoirs would be sufficient to maintain a continuous water supply during that period. period. Likewise, based on the current water levels in the Kalani and Kalu rivers, forecasts indicate there will be no immediate risk to water supply operations in the Western Province over the next 2 months. According to the current situation, we are in a position to move forward without major concern.
Meanwhile, the Director General of the Disaster Management Centre, retired Major General Sampath Kotuwegoda, recently informed the Committee on Public Enterprises that preparations are already underway to respond to possible El Nino-related impacts.
We expect a dry spell lasting around 2 months. We have already been informed that our reservoirs currently contain sufficient water. If challenges arise in supplying water for agriculture, our priority will be ensuring drinking water supplies. We are preparing all districts for that possibility. Water bowsers and water resources have already been identified and mapped. Using historical data on dry spells experienced in Sri Lanka, we have carried out detailed mapping and preparedness measures.
The government says it is also taking a coordinated approach to prepare for any escalation of El Nino conditions.
A ministerial subcommittee has been appointed to coordinate the response to El Nino. As a government, we are preparing for it. With the involvement of all ministries and heads of institutions, we are making preparations to face any worsening situation. Government institutions and departments are being equipped to respond to any eventuality. We believe that as a government, we are prepared for this challenge. The largest and tallest statue of Jesus ever built in Sri Lanka, made of white iron, was unveiled yesterday for public worship yesterday. This 60-foot tall statue has been erected at the Siduwa Supuwat Arana complex and is considered a unique creation that adds to the country's Christian religious and artistic heritage.
This statue, which has been created under the artistic concept and guidance of the Supuwat Arana administrator, Reverend Father Daryl Punna, was opened for public worship with the attendance of the Archbishop of Colombo, His Eminence Malcolm Cardinal Ranjit.
Now, for more details on this story, you can log on to our Newsfirst digital platforms. And also with that, we wrap up your primetime news for tonight.
Thank you for watching. Good night.